Here we go. Yeah. It's time to listen up because this show's about to get you right. Settle in cause you be tuning into what Jiu Jitsu life. Get into the nitty and gritty of what the game's about. What it's really like when you get paid to fight and train for bouts. Turn it up, turn it up, turn it on louder. About to drop some knowledge, yo, it's Drew Dominguez, Sean Fowler. About to give it to you straight, y'all, no filler. Pulling no punches, really couldn't get no realer. I'm a flow spiller, recognize that no one's illa. Keep it locked right on this episode because it's gonna be killer. Elite technique with the flows to get you hyped. I thought you knew with Sean and Drew, the crew of a Jiu Jitsu life.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to A Jiu Jitsu Life. I am Sean Fowler with FIVE365, along with my co-host Drew Dominguez. And today we're in the FIVE365 studios with none other than Alianza Jiu Jitsu East Lakes owner, Elias Gallegos. How are you today?
I'm good, man. It's early and I'm cold, but other than that, I'm good. I'm glad to be here, guys.
It is an early Sunday morning. We do this at like 7:30 a.m. on Sundays to get everybody started. So let's talk about a few things. I think there's a lot of interesting things to open up with, especially in reference to the history of Jiu Jitsu in San Diego. And I don't think that people really know the depth of the history of Jiu Jitsu in San Diego.
Right, yeah.
And Carlos Valente being one of the original members here, Rodrigo Medeiros, Nelson Montero, and Fabio Santos. Yeah. Right. So those four guys are kind of a legend here in San Diego because they're the four that basically brought everything to San Diego. So, and I know that you in the past you've been training for what, 22, 23 years now?
23 years, something like that. Yeah.
Third degree or fourth degree now?
Third degree.
Third degree. Okay, so third degree black belt. One of the very few Americans that are like a third or fourth degree level, because there's not a lot of them out there in the U.S. at this point nationally that are third or fourth degree as far as Americans. Now, did you know, I know this is a curveball, but did you know that there's like two different striping systems whenever it comes to black belts?
No, I think the striping system that I'm using, I think it's not even the official one. So yeah, I've heard different things. I didn't know that there's
so Federation goes 3-3-3-5-5-5. You know,
right,
as far as the black belt, right?
Sure.
And I think that's pretty much the template that most of us follow. And a few years ago, I was probably like a purple belt, and I've been running these events for so long, and I ran into a situation where I couldn't figure out how people were like a fourth or fifth degree already, you know, because people like Sanji,
the Gracie guys, or
So the Valente brothers are the Gracie guys, under like Henner and Horian and all those guys. They stripe black belts every 2 years, and we follow a different template. We go 3-3-3-5-5-5 if you're tied to the Federation in any given way. And so I was really puzzled because there was a gentleman, actually Zach Maxwell's dad,
even
Steve
Hickson
Maxwell,
has his own as well.
Correct. Yeah. So they don't follow Federation format as far as IBJJF or CBJJF or whatever it is. So I was really puzzled, and I had to go to Sanji, and I was like, hey man, I don't get it. Like, what's going on here? Why is this guy the same exact rank as you, and yet you got your black belt here, and this guy got it only 10 years ago, and he's like, oh yeah, well, they follow a different little format. So it was
so really what is that format called? Like, who's running that format?
I think it's just the way that the Gracie system breaks it down. So they do theirs every 2 years versus every 3-3-3.
So just two all the way across the board?
All the way across.
Oh, wow.
So you'd be a Coral belt in like, you know what I mean? Yeah. You'd be a Coral belt in 20, 25 years.
All that really means is that when people have a bunch of stripes, it just means we're getting old. That's all it means. Sure. That's all it means,
I'm with you, man.
It doesn't mean I'm the best guy on the mat anymore. It just means I'm old, man. That's
I agree.
Sean brought up the history of Jiu Jitsu. You started training 23 years ago with Fabio.
Yeah, 1996. And this is the reason why. When I graduated from high school, I wrestled, played football. Actually, small little side note, I actually played track. I threw the shot put and the discus in track, right? And so, when you're in high school, you're playing sports, and you graduate, you want to have that camaraderie again. You're looking for that camaraderie again. I was never a great athlete, so I couldn't play in college or anything like that. And I remember I was helping out my high school wrestling team. This guy runs in with I'm gonna date myself, with a VHS. Hey, hey, you got it, like screaming and yelling. We're like, whoa, what's
Sure, it wasn't beta?
No, it was VHS. It was VHS. And so this guy comes running and screaming. And he's saying, "Hey, we gotta watch this. We gotta watch this." So I'm like, and he was saying something about wrestling or whatever. So we go into the PE room. We reel out. Remember those big ass TVs on the wheels? We roll those out. We put in the VHS, and it was UFC 1, right? And so imagine this. Picture this. There's like 20 wrestlers in the locker room. We wheeled out the TV, and we're trying to, in our mind, equate what we're watching on TV to what we know in our life. So all of us are, first thing we're thinking about is this some type of wrestling, like fake W, like is this that, or is this real fighting? We didn't know what was going on. And then after a while we realized this shit is legit, this is real, right? So we run back into the rest of the room. We start trying to choke each other, start trying to like armbar. We don't know what the hell we're doing. One of the coaches used to do Sambo, AAU Sambo, right? He's like, hey, that's an armbar. And he showed us a little bit of the arm or whatever. I got hooked. I fell in love, right? So I start, there's no internet back then. There's no, right? So I remember getting the yellow pages, or was it the white pages or the yellow pages, right?
Yellow.
And I'm looking for jiu-jitsu.
Commercial was white.
Yeah. I'm looking for, jiu-jitsu, whatever, nothing. I found Fabio Santos' ad in the Penny Saver. You guys remember the Penny Saver?
Sure do.
The Penny Saver. So I found Fabio Santos' ad in the Penny Saver.
That's how you know we're old.
Yeah, these guys don't even know what the Penny Saver is. So I show up, and when I went on the Saturday morning class, they had a beginner class, right? It was the intro class. And then right after the intro class, they had like a fundamentals class. So you try the one class for free, and then, hey, you want to sign up? Take this next class, and you're good to go.
Right.
When I walked in, I knew it was the right place for me because I walked in and I saw Dean Listers, one of my oldest friends. I've known Dean since high school. I met Dean in the 10th grade, and by this time we had already graduated. So I walk in and I see Dean kind of hanging out on the mat. And I was like, hey, you're here? And he's like, yeah, you're going to love it, blah, 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 blah. Took my free class. My instructor was Jeff Higgs, right? And he told me,
He's at Studio 540. Yeah.
And he goes, you're going to be great, man. This is what you want. You're going to be great. You're going to love it. I signed up the next week. Yeah, and that's where I started. I found out that at that time, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say at that time, there was only Fabio Santos School and Nelson Montero's school. I think there was only those two schools.
Well, Carlos. Okay, so to give you a little history there, like we've done some really
research here.
Yeah. So Nelson and Carlos actually were going back and forth to Abu Dhabi at that time.
Right.
So
yes.
They were working with UAE, and
is that the Avellini? Is that the I know there was Master Carlos had one on. It was called Avellini Jiu-Jitsu or something like that.
Something like that. So Carlos was actually in LA. And I'm sorry, Carlos Valente was. So to give you the history, okay, just so Rodrigo Madero's spot,
right,
is what Carlos Valente's original school.
Yes.
Him and
before that, Rodrigo had said that gym belonged to Vitor Belfort.
It was Vitor Belfort and Carlos
right
together.
Cross. Was that the right
correct,
cross?
Correct.
Yes. Okay, yeah.
So it was the right cross, and Hadra Gracie trained there. He came in and out of town, and he was training there. As a matter of fact, Vitor and Hadra went through the wall there. I remember when
Vitor used to go.
So Vitor and Carlos owned Rodrigo Madero's spot, which Rodrigo's owned that for like 20 years now at this point. Nelson was up north, but he was also going back and forth to Abu Dhabi and teaching over there along with Carlos. Carlos then sold that spot directly to Rodrigo, which now has owned it for like 20 years. Okay. So crazy little story, right?
And from 4 to how many are in San Diego right now?
It's
got to be over 100.
It's probably over 100 now.
I think, like you mentioned before, it's going like back to the early MMA stages when it was here in San Diego. You could find an MMA gym on every corner.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much what jiu-jitsu is now, in my opinion.
Right.
No, for sure.
But I think the difference is that MMA, you're beginning to see it die. It's dying. It's not at the level. Not saying that the level of athlete is not there, but you don't have 25 gyms in every location now. You know what I mean? You have 1 or 2 that kind of cater to the specialty of MMA now, and that's about it.
Well, I think what ended up happening was we did have a bunch of MMA gyms, and then people really started to realize where the good teams were, who the good instructors were.
Right.
And then people just left their little gyms. And I think right now, really, what do we have? We have Alliance MMA
and Arena.
And yeah, that's really it.
That's it.
But I, at the same time, I think people are really not trying to be MMA fighters anymore. I think they realized, okay, well, I don't have to get smashed in the face.
Right. But people still love to train. People love to say that they train MMA.
UFC.
People love to say that. People love to say that they train MMA. So there is a niche for like little small gyms that teach MMA. But like if you're going to be competitive in the upper echelon of professional fighting, there's very few schools. There's very few schools in San Diego, like you said, the Arena and Elias MMA.
Right. Well, and then if you look at it nationally, like how many other schools are really producing that level of fighter? You know what I mean? You have.
Well, and then also 10 Planet with Manolo over there, right?
Oh yeah.
He's got
Manny,
the best. One of the best.
Manny's got a historical value here too. You know, as much as he
started back with the Lions.
He's been training just as long as I have, but he was on the other side.
He trained with the Lions.
So here's my story. You guys know Wade Shipper.
Of course.
So here's my Lions Den story.
His steel cup.
So
don't let it get your back in the body.
So the Lions Den had opened up in Chula Vista.
Correct.
Right. So I'm like, man, Ken Shamrock, like that was
Joe Hurley.
Ken Shamrock was like the UFC, you know, like. So I go down there to check it out, and I'm thinking possibly about training at the Lions Den because it's in Chula Vista. Fabio Santos was in Mission Gorge Road, kind of far from me. So I show up to the Lions Den, right? It's just, there's noise everywhere, right? So I go up, and did you ever go to the Lions Den when Chula Vista? So you know how they had that, like...
The little split spot?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I go in there, and it's Robbie Kilpatrick, Tony Galindo, right?
The Bull.
Wade Ship, all these... I didn't know who they were. I found out who they were later. But Robbie Kilpatrick heel hooks somebody, right? And it just... And nobody fucking skips a beat, right? And then Robbie tells the guy... Get against the wall, we need to train. And I was like, what the fuck just happened here? The guy's foot is broken, nobody's going to see if he's okay. And then as this is happening, Wade Ship, this is my Wade Ship story. He works for me now, he teaches Muay Thai at my academy. Wade Ship walks in front of me and my three cousins, and he goes, if you want to be a man, this is the place you train. And fucking walked away, and I was like, let's get the fuck out of here. I was like, we are never coming back here. Dude, but that was how the Lions and guys train. Hard 100, you know, like all crazy. But I'll never forget that. Heel hook, the guy screams, nobody rushes to see if he's okay.
Think about that the natural progression of all of the evolution of where they came from and who they are now, you know what I mean? Because those guys, watching them dynamically and being around since the infancy of MMA, we've been there since the beginning, you know what I mean? And so to see all the different elements of Total Combat and the WEC and Gladiator Challenge, King of the Cage, these shows that, Strike Force, all these shows that a lot of people don't even know about at this point. They're just like UFC, right? They have no idea about the historical data or anything that goes backwards. But the evolution that those guys have endured over time, because Pete Williams, man, a lot of people don't know he's a chef, you know what I mean? And a lot of, they don't know that he disappeared.
He went to Hawaii, right?
He went to Hawaii, and then he came back for a while. He was training here again, and then I don't know what he's doing just now. Joe Hurley, one of the most gifted athletes around. Very small guy, 145, 155 pounds, but very gifted, man. Poof, disappeared. Great wrestler, but a lot of those guys were very one-dimensional. All those
you could be back then. You just had to be either a really good grappler or a really good striker, and you could be back then.
Really good at one thing.
And then people like Diego Sanchez came in and changed the game, right? The Nightmare. He literally made everybody look at it differently. He made people like Uriah Faber. Look at Uriah Faber, man. Who knew he had stand-up? He came from wrestling all his life, and then and I remember seeing him at King of the Cage, man. I was standing there with Danny Punkass and from Tap Out and Chuck and Scrape back then, Tim, and I remember standing there and watching Uriah bridged out on this guy. This guy had his back for an entire round, and Uriah just sat there bridged out, bro. He would not tap, nothing, and he came out and he beat the brakes off of that guy after that round. Yeah. But the guy had his back for an entire round.
King of the Cage? King of the Cage.
Saboba Casino, way back when. So, the evolution is just tremendous about where it's gone and came from.
Remember guys like Marco Huas who were way ahead of the game in the early UFCs, in the early days of MMA? He was way ahead of the game because he was one of those guys that actually had everything. That was
amazing.
Let's bring it back to your training at Fabio, since we're off of compliment there. How long were you there?
I went from white to brown with Fabio.
Wow.
I went from white to brown with Fabio. Yeah. I got released from Fabio's, and then he let me come back. I got released and let me come back. Fabio is I'll tell you this, man. Fabio is very special because he knows what he has. He knows what he knows, and you're not going to tell him any different. Right? I love that man. If it
very old school.
If it wasn't for Fabio,
machismo.
If it wasn't for Fabio, I wouldn't have what I have now. I truly believe I wouldn't have the academy. There's no way I was going to go all the way to Del Mar with Master No. There's no way I would have gone all the way up there. I didn't even have a car back then. But man, just look at how many black belts came out of Fabio's academy.
Oh man!
So we're talking about that in like my progression.
Your progression from the beginning. To the time.
So I went from white to brown with Fabio, and at that time, Dean Lister, who was one of my best friends, one of my really good friends, he was starting to fight MMA. And Fabio is really old school. It's gi, and then I think out of this summer we only do like 2 or 3 weeks of no gi.
Right.
And it was literally though you had to wear your gi pants and like a tank top. But Dean was getting ready for fights, so Dean was training in shorts, MMA gloves, and he wanted to do more. He wanted to do more no-gi. And what ended up happening is me and Dean opened up the Lister Fighting Academy in Chula Vista, and it was primarily or predominantly no-gi and MMA stuff. That's all we were doing. I bounced around. Me and Dean bounced around. I followed Dean to the boxing club, City Boxing,
right.
Victory, all over the place, But I went from white to brown with Master Fabio, and then I got my black belt from Dean Lister. Even though me and Dean moved around to different locations, I had always been underneath Dean.
Give us a good Fabio Santos story.
So Dean is a brown belt. So Dean's a brown belt, right? Dean's a brown belt, and Dean shows up like this is old school 1999 or whatever. Like how many guys show up late to your class? A lot,
man,
right?
A lot.
But what we get it, right? Life, school, whatever. Right? Back
I don't know, man. I don't know if I get it. I just had this talk the other day. I'll tell you, man.
Hold on. Let me tell this thing. So Dean shows up, and I want to say he's not that late, right? But Master Fabio.
What do you consider late?
5 minutes?
Oh, hey, the old school guys don't play that, bro. 2 minutes late, bro. You're 2 minutes late. I didn't step in class.
And I want to say, Master Fabio was just in a bad mood. That's what I want to say, because I remember we're doing the warm up, and here comes Dean, and he tries to get on the mat, and Master Fabio goes, "Get the fuck out of here!" Right? Because he's late, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, because he was late. Like, you were not fucking late to class back then, man. Like, you were on time. You fucking did the warm up.
That's what I'm saying. Solo was the same way, man.
You rolled every fucking round.
Better be there,
dude. It's a completely different monster. Like, okay, so how we train in the association, right? When we did our first video, it went viral. Remember that? It went viral.
Right.
Because people were talking about that's not real jiu-jitsu. Okay, whatever. That's the jiu-jitsu I know. That's the jiu-jitsu that Master Fabio gave me, right? And that's all I know. So that's all I could teach. If it wasn't for him, I'm so glad that I went to his academy where he stressed self-defense. The training, bro. The training. You didn't walk off the mat after training. You crawled off the mat. Like it was just different,
Right.
And you see the evolution of jiu-jitsu with the sport and all these very dynamic movements and jiu-jitsu is beautiful. This is why there's a jiu-jitsu class. Yeah, it's
magical. That's for sure.
There's a jiu-jitsu academy for everybody.
Oh, 100%.
Right? You want to be a rough and tough guy, go here. You want to do no gi, go here. Gi over here. Something. It's all part of the same fucking tree. So like back about a year ago, 2 years ago, there was this whole thing about like sport and self-defense, sport versus self-defense.
Right.
It should never be that. It should just be do whatever the fuck you want. As long as you're not at home eating Cheetos, getting fat, and you're living a healthy lifestyle, you're battling your demons, you're getting an hour of exercise, you're making friends. That's all that really matters at the end of the day. That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
When you left Fabio brown belt,
yes.
Where did you go?
I followed Dean.
And that was to where?
So we went to so this is what ended up happening. We kind of got kicked out a few times, and then
a lot of it had to do with Dean's training for MMA. That became real.
Yeah, we got kicked out a few times, and then we would show up, and we were just asked to leave, stuff like that. And Stuff like that. The first time we left, we went to Chula Vista at this Taekwondo Academy, and that was the first Dean Lister, the Dean Lister Fight Club. That was the very first Dean Lister Fight Club. But at that time, I was a blue belt. So we had the Dean Lister Fight Academy, and I was going back and forth because Dean wasn't doing any gi. So I knew enough that I wanted to get my black belt from Master Fabio, but I only ended up getting my brown belt from him. So.
And you got your black belt from Dean.
From Dean, yeah. On July 31st, 2007.
So thinking about that in terms of the word Crionche.
Yeah.
Okay, and I know that people throw this word around, but the truth of the matter is that, man, there's so many options nowadays,
sure.
and this is the reality of it. What I see in today's modern market, and I can actually say this because I've been around since the infancy of all of this, right? And what I see in today's modern market is that not very many people go from white to black with the same instructor, man. It's very, very few that get the opportunity, because it takes such a long time to get a black belt, man. Such a really long time to get a black belt. And for somebody to stay with somebody from white to black and have that, that tie or that attachment.
It's very rare.
It's very, very rare now, you know what I mean? So the term Crionche is becoming more and more, I think it's becoming more and more vague. Sure. It was something that old school, but back then there was only a couple academies, there was...
And also back then, it's because we're a guard playing team, or we're a top playing team, or we're a half guard playing team. And so whatever we're doing here,
right,
they're not going to see it till we fight at the tournament. Right. So if one of my guys is going up, that's where that whole thing came from. But nowadays, we have this.
Everybody's versatile.
But how many people that aren't in our association still come and train with you guys here, or at my
100%?
Everybody. 100%. So that's the growth, because that's why people are so good now. That's why you can get a black belt in 5-6 years. If you're training all the time, there's YouTube, there's 100 gyms in San Diego. You can train everywhere. You're gonna get a lot better, a lot faster than back then when there was only 4.
Right, and 5, still, even then,
academies. You guys are okay with cross training.
Of course, I
100%.
Back in the day,
100%.
like that.
Yeah. I tell my students all the time they should cross train, and this is the thing. Cross training, not only does it allows you to make new friends, sure, right? And this is the truth of the matter. Comparing all the years that I competed, and I do plan to compete this year, back on it, and it's been like the Masters? Masters. I plan on doing Masters this year, and of course I've taken the last couple years off. I've really just focused on my students and the growth of FIVE and all these different things. But all the years that I competed, you go out there and you have a war with somebody, you don't know the guy across from you, and let me tell you something, that dude right there is your best friend for life from there on.
Facebook friends right after.
Oh, right after. Instantly.
Every time you see him at the next tournament, hey, what time did you win? It's like, you don't get that. You don't get that when you play football. You don't get that when you play other sports.
No, not at all. Yeah. It's a different element, like as a whole, and I think the growth of all of that, the evolution of jiu-jitsu, and we're in a fortunate place, being one. Southern California is the pinnacle of jiu-jitsu next to Brazil. Yeah. Like, that's the truth of the matter. LA and San Diego have the best talent in the world whenever it comes to jiu-jitsu, next to Brazil, and I look at it from a perspective of, there's some good jiu-jitsu across the United States. There really, really is. But Southern California is it's a different breed. It's still a different breed.
So you think the growth of that comes from MMA, comes from...
I think it stems a little bit of everything together. I think it fuses everything together in a unique
UFC,
way.
The early UFC definitely pushed everybody to go learn jiu-jitsu, because the Gracies have a great marketing tool, right? It was the UFC. That's what they built the UFC for, was to showcase Gracie jiu-jitsu. And that's why when I saw Royce Gracie, that's why I was like, okay, I need to learn this. I'm going to go find this, But everybody that walked through that door in the early or late 90s, early 2000s, they walked in that door for jiu-jitsu because they saw the UFC, because they saw Royce Gracie, because they saw all those jiu-jitsu black belts winning MMA fights. That's what they walked in the door for. Nowadays, it's for a multitude of reasons. It's not necessarily because now it's not style versus style. It's athlete, and so it's different now.
I would agree with you. So let's talk about, you're the owner of Alianza Jiu Jitsu. You had a unique transition over the years You were Fabio, and then Dean.
Yes.
And you've had, over that multitude of years, a lot of things have happened. Life happens.
Sure.
Teams split.
Right.
Partners go different directions.
Right.
You initially, you left Fabio. You and Dean did your thing. You went to Victory. Then you started your own academy, which ended up being a Gracie Humaita with Master Hoyler. And your professor at the time was Johnny Faria. And Johnny and Hedges had Gracie Humaita San Diego, which was basically the headquarters. And there's obviously 3 or 4 other Gracie Humaitas here in San Diego. There's Leticia Ibero with Gracie South Bay. There's Nick Steffen with Gracie Carlsbad. At the time, there was Gracie San Diego, and then there was Gracie Eastlake.
Yes.
And then now there's Gracie Poway. And because Johnny and Hedges at Gracie Humaita San Diego split, once again, all these historical data.
If you go back and look at like Checkmat, all these, that's just generally what happens.
Oh, 100%. Checkmat. You look at Checkmat. You look at Cyborg.
Yeah.
You look at Alianse. You look at Salo and Master Hoyler.
Yeah.
You look at there's so many different elements, and a lot of times, let's just call it what it is. Sometimes it's personalities.
Sure.
Sometimes it's business. Sometimes it's you got a different view, and at some point, it's like your kid, right? You got to let your kid spread its wings and fly, and unfortunately, once you get to that level, you begin to see things differently. Now, Johnny and Hedges split, and Johnny went and he opened up Alianse Jiu Jitsu in San Diego, which is the main hub and headquarters in San Diego. You followed him, became Alianse Eastlake.
Yes.
And then following that, you created your own association.
Yeah.
How did that all come into fruition?
Before we start talking about the association, talk to us a little bit about your academy at Eastlake, what you offer, what type of...
Yeah, for sure. So my academy is Alianse Jiu Jitsu Eastlake. Can I give the address?
Of course.
We're at 821 Coon Drive, Suite 110 in Chula Vista. And like I was telling you earlier, I teach the way I was taught.
I think most teachers.
Yeah,
I think most teachers.
Yeah,
prolifically, that's just what they do. And not only that, but I think the secondary part of that is, as an instructor, to be a great instructor, right? You have to teach what you were taught, and if that student does not comprehend what you're teaching, you need to learn as a teacher. If you're a good teacher, you're going to learn how that student learns, so then you can then teach them the same way that you teach everybody else in the room.
Makes sense.
So let me talk about the Lions Den real quick, right? I always knew that whenever I opened up my own academy, not like where I was teaching at Victory, but my academy, right?
Right.
I didn't want to make the same mistake that the Lions Den made. And what was that? At one point, the Lions Den was the premier team in all of MMA. Remember, they had like every single belt in the UFC. They had almost every single belt in like the lower divisions. They were the team to beat, right? But if I'm not mistaken, from my point of view, what ended up happening to the Lions Den is that Ken Shamrock was the main guy, right? And Ken Shamrock never got, I don't want to use this term that he never got better, but Ken Shamrock was always the main guy, right? And,
True.
And what ended up happening is when he got a little bit older, guys got better than him, people started to leave, right?
Vernon, Pete, all those guys. Yeah, you're right.
So
everybody split.
When I opened up my own academy, I told myself, you know what? You heard that phrase, whatever, like, if you're the smartest man in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? So that's what I took into my business. That's what I take into my academy. I hire guys that are way better than me, right? Because I'm learning from them as well. So I hired Tarsus Humphreys, multiple-time world champion, to teach there. I'm learning from, I am not the best guy on my mat, and I will never be, right? So that's one thing that I always stress. What we teach there is primarily the self-defense aspect, right? We have only two competition classes, but it's all self-defense, all fundamentals. I guess if you want, in a term we could use, it's old school jiu-jitsu, you will never see me teaching the berimbolo and stuff like that, but Professor Tarsus will teach that in his competition class. So we have something for everybody there, but I would say there's a reason why there's about 75% of all my adult students are all law enforcement military. 75% of my adult students are all law enforcement military, because that's the type of jiu-jitsu that they need for their work. I have about 25 border patrol agents, and a lot of times it's one border patrol agent with 20 illegals, and it's so sport jiu-jitsu is not going to help them. They need to learn, they need to know their self-defense. So that's basically what we do. We also teach MMA, boxing, Muay Thai, CrossFit. You can get a little bit of everything in our academy.
Dan, where can we find that?
At 821 Coon Drive in Chula Vista, Eastlake, California.
Website?
AllianceBJEastlake.com.
Okay. And throughout your years of jiu-jitsu, you created an association.
Yeah, I have an association, and the association wasn't even. It wasn't even my idea. Here's what ended up happening. I think after I left Master Hoyler, I was not disenfranchised. What's the word I'm looking for? I left Master Hoyler, and I was just uneasy with the whole association things, right? The whole association thing.
It's kind of it's a difficult thing.
Yeah, it's very
political.
It's very personal. For me, this is very personal because
it was for me too.
I feel and it's good that this is this is the first time I'm ever sharing this. Right. So there's all these emotions in me.
There is for me too as well.
A lot of emotions. Imagine you're a kid and you love basketball, right? Okay. And you get to play basketball every single day with Michael Jordan, right? Or Charles Barkley, or whoever your hero was, right?
You dated herself again.
Yeah.
Fab Five, bro. Fab Five.
Who's Charles?
Hakeem Olajuwon, bro.
Who's Charles Barkley, right? So imagine that, right? I was teaching at Gracie San Diego, and I'll never forget this, right? Master Hoyler's watching me teach, and I hadn't even met him yet, really, right? I'm just teaching for Johnny. Master Hoyler's watching me teach, and I was like, oh my God, he's watching me teach, Master Hoyler gets on the mat, starts helping my class, and somebody that you idolize, right? This is something that I love, jiu-jitsu. This, a part of that family, right, that started this. He's on the mat. He's teaching with me. I'm teaching a class with Master Hoyler Gracie. I'll never forget that day, right? I really felt that I gave my all to the association, to the team. At one point, I had the best kids program in all of Southern California. We were the Great Somaita kids. We were fucking shit up at all the local tournaments and stuff like that. Things happen, like Sean was saying, personalities, this and that, and things happen. And I was when I had to leave Great Somaita, it was devastating. It was devastating. I looked back and I said, man, okay, I left Fabio's.
So many emotions.
I left Dean's. I left, I'm like, what? It was just because I thought I was going to be Great Somaita for the rest of my life. That's what I thought. I thought this was my home. But ultimately, Professor Johnny Faria, he is my professor, And when he called me up and said, hey, I'm leaving. I'm leaving with you. I am loyal, I think, to a fault sometimes. But when he told me he was leaving, I said, I'm leaving with you. We're going, And it was a tough decision to make. I'll never forget talking to Master Hoyler on the phone. And when he asked me, are you leaving? It's like, I'm sure you're going to feel the same way with you and Salo. I feel like I was breaking up with my dad or a girlfriend.
Yeah,
it was just this weird thing.
It's a hard man. It was a really tough decision for me, and it weighed on me for 2 years.
But that just shows the loyalty that you put in.
Of course, 100%. But I'm very happy with Master Jacare and Master Fabio Jujel and Alliance, and they've treated us amazing. It's a great team. And it's what I think it's what you make it. It's what you make it.
That's with anything.
Yeah, it is. So back to your original question about the association,
the Gallegos Jiu-Jitsu Association.
The Gallegos Jiu-Jitsu Association. So Sean and Brandon were about to announce they were going to leave. So
yeah, we were. Like you, a lot of emotions come with this actual talk, and I, like you, I love Saulo. I do. I love Saulo with all my heart. Saulo gave me something that I can never explain. Saulo and Shanji did amazing things for me in my life, and I will forever be in debt with them. And I will love them and all of the above. Even today, whenever I see them, and you guys can all, you can say this. Whenever I see them, the minute I see them, I walk right up to them and I tell them I love them and I hug them and I kiss them on the head and I tell them, thank you for everything that you've ever done for me. Because the truth is I wouldn't have what I have right now if it wasn't for them. And unfortunately, business-wise, they were just choosing to go a route that I didn't quite understand, and it's totally like, I totally do get it. I do understand the big picture, you know what I mean? Just like any association, the direction that they're going with it, Atos, the Ibero Association, Alianza, like I do understand the franchising format. I understand all of the above. But what I worry about, and I look at it as a whole, I don't think at this point in time, there's not a lot of these that are totally ready for the franchise area as a whole. A lot of it is still association-wise.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because whenever you do a franchise, right, you buy toilet paper from them off their website.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
you
it's
have to
that
get their patches
detail.
from them, you have to get their gis.
And I think that they're all heading down the right path. I just wasn't ready for that element.
Right.
I wasn't ready to. I had already built a brand for a few years. I had built a brand already for a few years based off of the name that we wanted to run with, and so on and so forth. And I didn't want to veer away from that. Probably much like you.
Right.
And it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Whenever I finally made the decision to leave, and that was 2 years coming. Like I went through it for 2 years, mixed emotions, man. And there were days that I was really down, man. I was really just, it was a lot of weight on my shoulders. And to this day, I sent the most heartfelt email to Saulo and Shanji whenever I left, and because they were out of country, and I kept trying to reach them, and they weren't getting back with me, unfortunately, until after they got back from out of country. And but by that point, it was kind of too late. You know what I mean? I had made my decision, and like I said, I love them to death. There's nothing that I wouldn't do. To this day, I will always. I'm a proud Ibero black belt. You know what I mean? 100%. But and a lot of the things that they taught me is what I've carried into here.
Sure.
And we were at a transitional time, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do or what direction I was going to go. But I've always had a backup plan, and we've trained together off and on over the years constantly. Brandon originally came from you as well. And so to build something dynamic,
it was their decision. They're the ones that came up with the idea.
Okay.
It wasn't mine. They're the ones that came up with the idea. And I remember, I don't know if it was Sean or Brandon, it's like, we need to have a meeting. And I was like, okay, we're going to buy you lunch. Cool. I'm there. It was in Point Loma, right? We had that chicken place, right?
Yeah.
And they kind of threw this out, say, hey, we want to, what do you think about an association? And we'll do, and it's like he's saying, it's so weird right now that, we've talked about it, because we've gone through it. But being in this type of format where maybe you haven't heard my story or these other people haven't heard the story, it's weird, huh? It's hard, it's very hard. It's very hard. What we promised ourselves is we are going to do everything in our power to make this association and the people that end up following us never feel
like an outcast.
How we felt, right?
It's really hard because there's so many associations, right? Yeah. And the associations are so large.
Sure.
Like if you go to Chicago and you go compete, nobody knows who you are. Even though there's an entire team there of your teammates, right? Nobody knows who you are. Yeah. And not only that, but there's schools in the immediate region. Let's say there's 4 or 5 schools of that same school or that same flag in the immediate region, and none of them train together, not at all.
Or they hate each other.
Yeah, they don't. There's like a political struggle.
You go to here's what you're never going to have at the Gallegos Jiu Jitsu Association. That's where we have the team meetings. That's why we have the mandatory team training sessions. When one of my students from Hanu or Chula Vista Jiu Jitsu Club, when they're at a tournament, local tournament, wherever, and I'm not there, they know Professor Sean. All the association members know the other professors, not just like, hey, professor. They know them in a way where, professor, I have a fight. My professor's not here. Can you come and coach me? Yes. How many times have you seen, two guys with the same flag on their back. This is a professor. This is somebody else from another team, but the same flag, coaching or fighting, and nobody's helping out. I don't want to be a part of it. If that's a team, I don't want to be on that team. I want to be a part of something that's legit, something that's real. And we're not talking about making anything gigantic. We're not looking to take over the world. We're just looking to take care of each other. Right? You think of like a bunch of boys from the neighborhood, right? A bunch of boys from the neighborhood, dudes from the neighborhood, and we just got each other's back. I just happen to be in front because I got the fucking stripes. I'm the old guy. You know what I mean? That's basically it. That's all it is. But we do it right. You know, we do it right. There's no Gallegos Jiu-Jitsu Association mandatory gi. The only thing really is everybody has to have the patch and show up to the training session.
And you know, and dynamically, like I can honestly say, you know, I have a long history with him. Mm-hmm. I have a long history with Brandon. I have a long history with George. I have a long history, not so much with Ron, but I have a long history with most of the guys in this association, including Charlie. The difference here is that whenever we have a problem, we can literally scream and yell at each other and get it out. Him and I most recently had a heartfelt conversation that was pretty ugly.
Yeah.
It was about an hour and a half.
I almost was going to kill him.
It was an hour and a half. It was an hour and a half of screaming and yelling, you know what I mean? And it wasn't, you know, it wasn't me bad-mouthing him. It wasn't him bad-mouthing me. We just needed to get something out.
What it was is it was two people that care and love each other fixing an issue. Right.
Well, that's what you guys are supposed to do.
Yeah, but guess what? That's not what people do.
That's not what people do. You can't approach those guys in that manner. That's not what they do. You know, you can't go to them and say, you know what, man, I know that you're going through a tough time. And what we got to remember here is that all of these jiu-jitsu instructors are considered gods, right? And then we got to look at this from a different perspective. What we have to remember at the end of the day, you know, like Demi Lovato, okay? We recently spoke about Demi, and Demi had she OD'd, okay? And she's been an addict for a long time. But what we got to remember as these people are humans too. Mm-hmm. They go through life's trials and tribulations. They have ups and downs like anybody else. You know, there was a dark time in our academy back then, and you know, I went through a really dark time at Solo's academy, and that was because Solo's, you know, mom was battling stage 4 cancer. He was back and forth to Brazil. He was down. He was really sad. You know, him and Sanji weren't getting along so well. Sanji had went to LA. They were having a tough time, you know, communicating with each other and just the whole thing. You know, they're both dealing with their mom and stage 4 cancer. They're both going back and forth, and it was like our room was divided. You know what I mean? And it was a really tough and hard time. And for those that were there, felt the morale and the emotional roller coaster was a tough time. But what we have to remember is that they're human too, man. They are entitled to go through things, you know, just like anybody else. And like my argument with him is not it's beneficial. Like, okay, everybody kind of knows me as the guy that tries to do everything right and politically correct and so many different things.
Here's what it is.
In most ways.
I'm reckless. I'm super reckless. No. And he does this to me. He does this. Okay. And that's what I need. I need motherfuckers.
Everybody needs that.
I need that in their life. I need that. And there was a point when I was maybe younger where I would have been like, fuck you, I don't need that. As I get older, I realize, you know what, I need that. As much as sometimes maybe you don't want it, I need it. So that's what it was. It was me being reckless, because I am a reckless person. Like, that's just how I am, and that's how I was born. I'm reckless in everything that I do, or 100%, you know. And he was like, hey, and I think at one point I was like, I don't want to fucking hear that. And he's like, no, you're gonna hear it, you know. And I'm like, all right. And then I realized, whoa, this guy's doing this not out of anything else, but because he fucking loves me. When we were talking on the phone, you know, it was screaming, yelling, then it went to crying, and it was like, I was like, fuck. We came out of that fight, or that argument, better, better than we ever, I know this motherfucker loves me. I know he does, you know, and at the end of the day, that's all I care about, man. That's, right? At the end of the day, when you walk into your academy, can you say, these guys love me? For me, that's what I want. I don't care about the best training partners. I don't care about any of that stuff, right? Who won a gold medal? What I care about for my association is when we train together, team training, when guys come to Honda, when guys go to Apex, when you walk in and you see Professor Tim, do you know Professor Tim cares about you? That's all. That's what I'm trying to instill in my association. It's community, it's awareness, it's loving each other. It's being there for each other. You know, man, let's say you have a class of 30 guys or 30 students. every single one of those students on the mat is going through something. We don't know about it, but they're going through something, man. You know, and it should be a family. And unfortunately, some places are not. So like what we said before, we're trying to build that in this association, through the schools, under the association. Family first, you know, taking care of each other, and that's the most important thing. So I guess it's kind of flip, where other schools are like, we want gold medals, we want this. That's at the bottom for my association, right? That'll come.
At the end of the day, like it has to be a family first mentality, sure. and our job as professors is the personal growth of our students, not only on the mat but off the mat. We have to instill in them self-defense. We have to instill in them the self-confidence. We have to instill in them, you know, and a lot of people don't know this. Like, if you talk to my students, they'll tell you I life coach them. I life coach a lot of my students, you know.
Isn't that part of being a leader? Part of
100%. 100%.
But there are plenty of, and here's the thing.
They're not wrong.
Jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of jiu-jitsu instructors that just show up and teach jiu-jitsu.
And they're not wrong.
There's nothing wrong with that, right? But I think that if you are a jiu-jitsu instructor, you have a capability, or you have been given a platform to do so much more than just teach somebody an armbar. So you have been given a platform to change the world, you know. And we don't have. We're not. Here's
we're just average dudes, man. We're everyday guys.
We're basically in a position like, you know, college professors with all the years of training to impact people's lives. We do that every single day. 30, 40, 50, you know, students a day in the classroom. We have been given a platform, and at least for myself and for all my guys, we're going to do more than just teach jiu-jitsu.
So you feel it's your obligation?
Of course.
Oh, 100%. Yes, it is an obligation.
Being a leader, 100%. You have to.
I don't know. I don't personally know Charlie or Albert.
Right.
I personally know Tim, and he's the same way with us.
Yeah.
You know, he has that. He not just there to teach us an armbar. He's
right. Yeah.
Help us in life, like you two do, because you know, Sean and I have talked about some personal stuff, and we always, you know, manage to get through it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think if we didn't have someone to lean on or someone to talk to, it would just be difficult to get through.
It's very difficult.
You need to always have someone you can fall back on,
right?
And that person will tell you, like you just said, hey, you're fucking up.
Yeah.
And reel you back in.
And here's the thing: a lot of people won't tell me that. Nobody will tell me. It's him and my wife. They're the only people that'll tell me that. Most people will just be like, all right, you know, they don't want to fucking tell me because they're either scared of me or they don't want to be in bad terms with me. But that's why I need them. You know, that's you need that. You know.
What academies are part of the association for people who don't know?
We have both Hanu schools, Hanu Mid City, Hanu Mid City, Hanu IB. We have Alliance Eastlake, the Chula Vista Jiu-Jitsu Club on 3rd. That's on the other side of Chula Vista for me. We have Piranha Jiu-Jitsu, that's in Bakersfield. We have CSG 360 in Oceanside. Okay. And then we have Apex in Bonita, California. And then in 2 months, we were going to have American Fork, Utah.
I was going to ask you
American Fork, Utah. One of my black belts recently was given a great opportunity. An investor already bought the building. It's already set to go. And it's just a blessing. Like we had talked about this before. We're not going to... The only way our association is going to grow is if black belts that are underneath us want to be a part of the association. You know,
but they have to have a tie to us too.
Sure,
like, it's not like I don't want to.
We're not taking you know, somebody that I don't know that I can't vouch for. Like it's like
you have to grow within this.
Yeah, or I have to. It's like the mafia.
Or they had to train with us. You know, they had to train with us. They
got to be a friend of a friend, something like that. Like I'm not going to take somebody who wants to be. Hey, I like what you guys are doing. You'd be surprised how many times when I go to like Jiu-Jitsu World League a lot, where they up in LA, and the guy's like, "Hey, Professor, man, love what you're doing. Talk to me about the association. How?" Like, and I'm like, you know, we're not really taking your people. You know, we're not. I'm not trying to take somebody who has problems from another academy or another association to come.
Yeah,
we don't need that.
More problems.
We don't need those problems.
Right,
you know?
right.
And so we're very selective in who we allow to come on board. You know, and I think that's the way to do it. You know.
You know, a lot of people use jiu-jitsu as a way to de-stress.
Sure. Yeah.
when you walk on that mat, you basically leave everything. No matter how good or how bad your day was, well, let's just say you're having a shitty day.
Right.
Once you walk on that mat, you know, it just clears your head.
Sure.
You walk off an hour of training, whether you did good or bad.
Yeah.
You walk off that mat and you feel good about yourself. What has Jiu Jitsu done for you personally, as far as stress relief? And
Well, let's throw the second curveball right there, okay? Since you're throwing that out there, let's let people know whether a lot of people don't know this about him. He actually has a degree. He has a college degree too in therapy, counseling, in actual counseling.
Yeah.
And so, you know, a lot of people don't know that. Like, a lot of people don't know the backside of what some people do, you know, and I think that's something that we need to bring to light, because a lot of people, you know, they think, oh, he only does jiu-jitsu, jiu-jitsu, but a lot of people don't know that he has actually suffered from some depression himself. He was actually an addict at one point. And it's part of my kicking his ass all the time to keep him in check, you know. And so,
I think also that when it comes to the way, like, I don't like to use that word extreme, because extreme, but I think they're just wired differently, right? People are just wired differently.
Oh, of course.
I feel like I'm always going to be I don't know if this is the proper term, you know, going through school or going through, you know, through your groups or whatever, but I feel like I'm always going to be an addict. I feel like the second I say I'm not is when
you relapse,
it comes back, you know. So I just have to be aware. So I'm being open with that. So I'm very open with my depression, with my addiction, all that stuff that I've gone through. But man, there was so one of my students passed away last year. You know, he died of pancreatic cancer, and that sent me into a depression.
It was a tough time because it happened so fast. Like within a year, it was he was gone.
He was you know, a CrossFitter, the epitome of health, and you know, I'm so used to through my nonprofit and all the stuff that I've done most of my life. I'm always used to helping people, and for the most part, you know, I help them. And to see somebody wither away in front of you, and you can't do anything about it, when you're used to helping people, hundreds of people, you know, it does something to your soul. Where there was a part of that depression, I blame myself because I couldn't have saved him, right? And I know on the outside that's like, what are you fucking talking about?
No, but it's an emotional attachment. It's an emotional, physical attachment.
It fucking almost destroyed me, you know, because I couldn't do nothing. And what do? Every day you see this guy comes through your door, puts his fucking gi on, can't walk, and he's on the mat because he wants to fucking die on the mat. All the problems I thought I had, where are they at? You know what I mean? I'm being fucking self. I got no problems, you know. There was a point where I didn't train for about 3 months. There was like 3 months. I would put my gi on, and I would just start crying. I couldn't go on the mat. I couldn't tie my belt. There was this like magical force where I just couldn't tie my belt. I couldn't force myself. And I didn't tell anybody. I was always sick, and I was always busy, and I have so many black belts that, you know, they were covering for me, and I was telling people I was doing a lot of my nonprofit stuff, but I was so depressed because, you know, Sean was dying right before my eyes, right before the Academy's eyes, and I shared on Facebook what I was going through. You would be surprised how many high-level jiu-jitsu world champion black belts, how many high-level UFC MMA fighters
suffer,
text me, emailed me, Facebook me, thank you so much for sharing that, man. I'm going through the exact same thing, you know. And it was like a ding, it was a light, you know. So I share a lot because a lot of times people think I got all my shit together, and sometimes I'm fucking hanging from a thread, right? And I'm just being honest, right? No, but I want to let people know.
And this is sometimes where I have to chew his back.
But I want to let people know that, you know, it's, you know, first of all, being Latino, right? Being a male, being a jiu-jitsu black belt, I think we have the stigma of like, you have to be macho, you don't show your emotions, this and that, right?
Right.
And it's very difficult for people to share and open up. So that's why, dude, I'm as transparent as possible. And, you know, I'll never forget, I have a brown belt. Her name is Melinda. And I was on the mat. I finally was able to put my gi on and just sit down. And she went and grabbed me. She goes, "Come on, we're gonna train." I go, "No, I don't want to." She goes, "We're gonna train. Come on." I go, "I don't want to." She goes, "We're gonna train." And she pulled me out. And it's like I had forgotten that feeling of when you're having a fucking shitty day, or you got to fight with your girlfriend, or you lost your job, and like what you were just talking about, you get on the mat and you start rolling and you're breathing, and now I'm not thinking about shit. Why? Because Melinda's choking me and I have to defend, right? And all of a sudden I'm focused on jiu-jitsu, right? And then I realized, fuck, this is what I was missing, right? Jiu-jitsu is the best fucking therapy that anybody that's going through problems could ever do. You know, jiu-jitsu, like people talk about jiu-jitsu saved my life. Jiu-jitsu literally saved my life. I wanted to fucking put a bullet in my head. Jiu-jitsu saved my life.
And I think there's plenty of people that could probably share the same story.
100%. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
To what you're going through.
So people, what would you say for people? Because I know that you have a nonprofit.
Yes.
Okay, that nonprofit focuses on PTSD,
combat veterans with
combat
PTSD,
veterans,
yep.
and
at-risk youth, female victims of domestic violence, rape, and that have been raped. And then we also provide free law enforcement training 3 months out of the year.
What is the name of that association?
The Alliance Eastlake Foundation.
The Alliance Eastlake Foundation. Do you have a website for that too as well?
AllianceEastlakeFoundation.org.
Okay. So that nonprofit, okay, and helps, or should I say, in association with so many of the other things that you offer in the academy. What would you say to people that are suffering from mental stigma or depression or any of the above? Because I mean, I know I have a number of students that that suffer from slight depression, right. and most recently I came into an encounter with somebody that got diagnosed bipolar, and that's been a rough ride for her as well. All these different elements, I push people to train because I always tell them good, bad, or indifferent, no matter how your life is, man, jiu-jitsu will make it better.
Right.
That mat time and that mat therapy and killing the negative endorphins and getting off that mat, you know, you could be absolutely exhausted sometimes and not have the ability to struggle mentally because you just left everything out there on that mat, you know? And what would you say to these people that are going through these types of things? You
need to share. You need to talk to somebody. That's the first step in the healing process is sharing. Look, how many people last year, you know, big name movie stars or actors took their lives
over the last couple years.
And then people are like, I had no idea he was suffering from depression. Why? Because there's this stigma of, if you're suffering from depression, there's something fucking wrong with you. You don't got your shit together, right? And sometimes, like when people would ask me, hey, when did you get, like, what is it? What is depression to you? This is what it is. It's like, you know, those big Mexican blankets, those thick Mexican blankets. It's like someone dipped that in cement. I could be having the best day, and all of a sudden someone just drops that motherfucker over my shoulders, and I have this weight of energy where I can't move, I can't walk. And you know, you tend to think that there's something wrong with you, and I think that's why a lot of people don't want to share. They don't want to open up. But the first step into the healing process is telling people, sharing with people.
And I think with that, with people sharing, you come across people who are scared or scared might not be the right word, but you might run across people who are intimidated, might not want to share, embarrassed.
Of course, embarrassed is a big word, yeah.
Words you go on and on about what people deal with, but once you find someone that you can share with, like you said, that blanket is lifted off their shoulders and lifts off your shoulders as well, because you find someone that, we're going through the same thing you're going through.
And it doesn't guarantee that it takes away your depression, but you know, you share and you connect, right? We're social beings, you know.
Well, and it truly limits the things that you're going through, right? It takes some of the things, right. And I think it helps you clear a path to opening up new doors, right? And start to focus on new things, because somebody's going to tell you the natural progression is hey, you know what, man, you need to get back in the gym. You've got to train again. You've got to work out. You've got to do this, okay? You've got to get the proper sleep. You got to eat the right things. You got to schedule your day properly for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many elements in whenever you're organized, and then all of a sudden you become depressed and you lock yourself in a room and you're sleeping all day, you know what I mean? Or in and out of sleep all day, you know? It's a very natural progression. And I think that the mental stigma of that, and you know, Aaron Hurley's doing an amazing job with Submit the Stigma. You know, the mental aspects of it, like a lot of people don't know, man. There's a lot of instructors. Christina Barlan actually just shared something about being sexually assaulted whenever she was like 12 and 13 years old. She just shared it the other day, and how she body shamed herself, and she felt like that's the only way people loved her, and some other things. It was pretty deep write-up that she just shared a couple of days ago. And you know, I think there's a lot of people out there that go through similar situations that, and they battle on a daily basis, and we don't even know it, you know? And, you know, growing up, you know, man, you step on my tennis shoes, I'm gonna sock you in your face, you know what I mean? Like, it's a different element, man. It's a different time. I think, there's a lot of things that I do get frustrated with the newer generations and this whole safe word shit and all this other kind of stuff, man. Like, you know, sticks and stones may break my bones. You heard that phrase. You know, a lot of these kids don't even know what that means. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. You know what I mean? And the thing is like, man, it's a different world now. You know, so many people are hiding behind safe words, and they need a safe place, and, or they're hiding behind the internet. And you know, you can still get smacked in the mouth. You can still get smacked in the mouth. Don't get it twisted. You know, there's still older guys out there that don't hide behind the keyboard, man. They'll smack you in the mouth. They'll show up to your house and punch you in the face. You know, not think twice about it. You know, but I think the world is changing, and I think it's our job as parents and as leaders to guide these kids to have backup plans to go to college.
And that's you know, we were talking about this earlier. I have a student who stopped going to college to pursue his dreams of being an MMA fighter, and I just don't agree with that one. I don't agree with that at all. You know, and look, before anybody says, "Oh, don't kill the guy's dream," you know, this guy's like my son. I look at him as a son. You know, here's one thing that I would like. I do a lot of public speaking, you know, and my focal point when I do the public speaking, especially when I'm talking to at-risk youth or kids, is it's all education, right? Education is the thing that nobody can take. Like right now, if I wanted to, I could take your pants from you. I could take the money in your pocket. I'll take your car keys. You know, I could take your glasses, right? The only thing that people can never take from you is the education, right? It's what you put in your head, right? And there's a very limited window, you know. How hard is it for that 45-year-old man to go back to school?
Oh, 100%.
For that mom to go back to
school?
All
the time.
You know, and I get it, man. He wants to pursue his dreams of being an MMA fighter, but man, it's
a 0.001% that make it. You know, there's only so many Brandon Fierez, and there's only so many Dominic Cruzes, or so many Matt Lindlands. You know
how many MMA fighters you know that are fucking dead broke that have like 30 fights, pro fights?
Yeah,
a lot of them.
Most of them. 99%.
Most of them.
You know,
most of them.
It's very rare that you're going to be that person like a GSP or someone that's going to be able to make, you know, enough money.
Financially good for the rest of their lives. Right. Yeah, 100%. And even less on the female side. Right. Even less on the female side at this point. And the truth of the matter is that, you know, like even Ronda's moved on, you know, and I remember Ronda whenever she competed at our tournaments, man, before she was big, you know, she competed at our tournaments. Matter of fact, I can pull up videos on YouTube of her competing at our tournaments. But, you know, moving on, you know, she was able to establish something amazing. She did something amazing in MMA, something that had never been done before, next to Gina Carano. Gina Carano was probably the other big one, and then Cyborg.
She was the first.
She was the very first. Yeah, you know. And so you look at those, and you look at what they did for women, and you know, then obviously Ronda did it for the UFC, what Gina and them did for Strikeforce and everybody else. And man, she opened up doors. You know, she moved on to a movie-making career. She's catapulted into, you know, a superstardom, you know, and her and Hapa are doing amazing, you know, from what I know, her and Travis, and, you know, looking forward.
Is she the champ right now in WWF or WWE?
I believe so, yeah. I think it's awesome, you know what I mean? And how things change and how things grow, right? You know, and they've offered a unique transition with Brock Lesnar, and you know, Brock Lesnar was a horrible MMA fighter.
That was smart of them, because that's just you you have already a base of fans. And
you pulled over WWE fans overnight. You know what I mean? Millions of fans worldwide, and now you got Ronda transitioning over there, and I'm sure you're gonna see other ones.
Cyborg, or they're talking to Cyborg.
I could see that.
They're giving her to
I could see that. I think that'd be awesome.
Kane just signed a wrestling contract.
Did he really for the WWE?
Not for the WWE.
Hey, Cyborg's never gonna have to cut weight again. That'll be a good thing for her.
Another organization.
Oh, okay.
It's hard. It messes. For women to cut weight, a lot of people don't know this, but it really messes with their thyroid.
Yeah.
And once it messes with your thyroid issues then create depression problems. And a lot of people don't know that about a woman's body, which is a very unique thing too as well. But with that,
I have one question. I just have to ask you.
Yeah.
What does jiu-jitsu mean to you personally?
What does it mean to me? It's going to sound cliche, I think, but it's just, for me, it's a way of life. And a way of life like, the samurai, the warrior. Not that, but in what we've been speaking to this whole time. For me, jiu-jitsu helps save my life. Right? Jiu-jitsu is my medicine.
Well, a lot of people don't know this, but if you look at jeans or you and your brother were big.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You were heavy set. Your brother's actually lost a lot of weight too, hasn't he? Yeah. And he comes from a family that his dad's not a big man. His dad's a small man, but he was heavy set.
I used to be 300 pounds.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like it wasn't McDonald's 300 pounds. It wasn't a CrossFit 300 pounds. It wasn't Orlando Sanchez 300 pounds. It was a McDonald's 300 pounds. So jiu-jitsu's done so much for me. It's puts food on my table. It's giving me family. It's giving me friends. It's just giving me community. So jiu-jitsu it's my life. It's my life.
Okay.
You got anything else?
That's it.
Okay, so one more time, let's talk about Instagram and Facebook, your shout outs right now, and where they can find you online as far as Instagram and Facebook for the academies and the nonprofit.
So on Instagram, it's Alliance Jiu-Jitsu Eastlake, Elite Pro Prepper Brooks. That's my personal one. And then I did already give the website.
Throw it out
Alliance Eastlake, AllianceEastlakeFoundation.org. And I think that's it. Let me just say this. If you are a combat veteran dealing with PTSD or a female victim of domestic violence, or if you know an at-risk youth, go ahead and you can give me a call at 619-931-4370 or email me at info@alliancebjjeastlake.com. We have programs, free training, mentoring, counseling for you guys out there through my nonprofit, and we'd love to hear from you and take care of you guys.
A lot of people don't know this, that we work with actually a few therapists that are local here too, that are on our teams too, that kind of help guide us in some of the things that we do, which then allows us to help guide you guys in the right direction as well. So if there's any other questions, anytime you guys can contact us to info@fivegrappling.com, and we'll do what we can to put you on path wherever you may or may not be, wherever it's at in the United States or whatever the case may be nationally. So you got anything else?
That's it.
All right, so for today's episode of A Jiu-Jitsu Life with Elias Gallegos, you will be able to see that on FIVEgrappling.com and the Five Grappling YouTube channel, like always. And for anything else, check out FIVEgrappling.com. Up and coming events that we have Los Angeles coming up April 28th. Following that, we will be in where are we going to be? Texas. Europa. We'll be in Texas June 8th and 9th. And then following that, we'll be in Minneapolis, Minnesota in, I think, June 15th. So for all that, you can check out the Americana Tour at FIVEgrappling.com. And we are out of here. Thank you. Have a great day today.
Thank you, guys.